So in this video we're going to talk about subroutines. First of all, let us talk about the use of Perl in general. What kind of category that Perl is considered as a language used by programmers. More specifically, I would say that Perl is a general purpose language, so really it can be used for any reason. However, it is more string biased. It tends to be less efficient in numerical things. It is not specifically less efficient. There are modules in CPAN that you will natively process data, arrays, sorting, doing whatever kind of manipulation you want on numerical values. But that's the standard, what is known about Perl. So for example, in bioinformatics is very popular with the Human Genomes Project. If you Google link and Stein, you will find, and bioinformatics, you will find a lot of projects has been done with Perl in that domain. Also, for example, on the Mars reporter driver was written in Perl because it is a very small code, can do a lot of stuff in Perl, and very efficient and very quick and easy to handle. So probably you won't write a driver for a device, but you might consider working on files as you saw so far, or some operations, and we'll see more especially with subroutines today. So we covered scalar, we covered list and arrays, and now one of the most important topics is subroutines. Of course, presumably you have some knowledge in previous programming languages what the use of subroutines and why would you need subroutines in your program. How we can define and invoke subroutines in Perl. We define this with the keyword sub. So you define it sub, you give the name of your subroutines, and with a block of code starting with open curly brace and closed curly brace, and in the between your statements that you need. And here how you can invoke the subroutine by calling the name of your subroutine marine and precede that name with the sign of $. So here in our example, when I call the subroutine, the first time I will go up, since this is undefined value at the beginning, so we'll assign 1 to it at the beginning, and will print out for me the number 1, seller number 1. The second time I am invoking this subroutine, n would become 2 and will print seller number 2. As you can see here, n is a global value. That means I can get the value changed even every time I am calling the subroutine. Now, what kind of return values a subroutine really return for me? This is really crucial in using subroutines. So here one example. The name of the subroutine is add A to B, so obviously it's gonna do an adding, and we'll print just hey, I was evoked, and then we'll do the typical calculation of the addition. Now from my main program, I am assigning 3 to A, 4 to B, and then C value is equal to the return value of the subroutine called add A to B, and as I proceeded with $, it knows Perl that this is invoking a subroutine. So it goes to the subroutine and then will print this comment for me, and will add A to B, which is 7. So the return value of this routine will be the last statement that was executed, and then the return value will be 7, so 7 will be assigned to the variable C. So we'll have 7 and C. Now that doesn't mean that textually it's the last value, because if I have something similar to this, another subroutine name bigger of A or B, if in our case A is less than b. So if I say a bigger than b, no, it is not bigger than b. So in this case, we'll go to the else. It give me the b, which is a 4. However, if I had the opposite value, if this was 4 and this was a 3, in that case, we'll go to the typical of the first statement. A will get the value 4 in that case, so this will be the return value of that subroutine. So last statement here will be this one and not the last one. So typically is the last statement executed inside the subroutine and doesn't have to be in order or in textually manner the last statement. What else? How can, instead of using global variables, to use some type of arguments that I can pass parameters to my subroutines? Because maybe I am doing some kind of operations on my variables here, A and B, and I really don't want to mess up the value of those parameters inside the subroutine. To do that, you can always pass an argument next to the subroutine name inside parentheses, like a list of numbers. And this is considered as sending an array to the subroutine. And you have to notice here, you don't have to put this argument when you design your subroutine, because technically you might have a list of 2 arguments, you may have a list of 20 arguments. It doesn't matter for Perl. So how Perl is gonna work on this subroutine? Here it knows that I am gonna call a subroutine, name it max, and I'm gonna send 2 arguments, 10 and 15, to that subroutine, and the value returned from that subroutine will be assigned to n. So let me call max, and I'm calling max, and then it knows automatically to get to create an array, and this array has all the parameter passed. So array underscore, this is the name of the array, underscore will have 2 elements, 10 and 15. So here, instead of using if a bigger than b explicitly, I am saying give me the array 0, which is the first element that I passed to this routine. See if it's bigger than the second element, which is the underscore 1, and if it's the first one bigger, return the first one. If it's the second one bigger, return the second one. And you have to notice here the underscore array has nothing to do with the underscore scalar dollar. So here just I am calling the array that is explicitly in the memory. So automatically I have to consider that this array is local to that subroutine. So if I call this subroutine 10 times, every time will be having different array. Even if I use recursion, I recall this one inside itself will have each one of them different array specifically for each subroutine. So really the number of arguments, it doesn't matter for Perl. It doesn't care if even send less. So if you send less, will be considered as undefined. Now, a very important topic that I would like to cover here, the idea of local and global parameters. We didn't talk about it since the beginning of this course, but it's really important from now on to distinguish local from global parameters. And there is a way in Perl to define local parameters. And here, for example, in the subroutine max, I define 2 parameters, x and y, as local by introducing the keyword my. And here, since I didn't assign any value to those parameters or variables, will be undefined. The second step, what I am saying here, give me the arguments passed to that subroutine, so the array underscore, and pass them to those 2 variables. Here automatically will know that I'm going to take the first element, the array will be passed to x, the second element, the array will be passed to y. And then I'm comparing if x bigger than y, x will be return value of the subroutine, otherwise will be the y. So the variables are declared in my are local to the block. That means if I had it's not only for the subroutine, like if I have another curly brace open and close inside the subroutine, this value of x and y will be local for that specific block and will not be known for a block bigger than it. So this is very important. I can combine those two statements by saying, okay, assign for me the arguments that coming from the array, the first and the second, to x and y, and define it as local. Define them as local variables. And typically this is always used at the beginning of subroutines, very known in Perl. Another way, very easy way even to pull the elements from the array, we saw shift before with array, so why not using it? So if you use shift without a name of the array, will be considered the argument array in subroutine. So I'm saying pull the first element that you have in this array underscore and put it in x, and then make it local, then pull the second element and put it in y and make it local. Variable argument list, and this is the point that is very important that I would like to show you, that how you can pass any number of arguments, 15, 2 arguments, 1 argument and 0 argument, and your subroutine will be working in any case. So here, for example, let's assume we have 15 arguments. So I pass to this subroutine, or let's say 3 arguments. So I pass 3 arguments, 10, 3 and 1. So the first value shifted and I save it in base, which is 10, and I make it local. Then I have a loop that's gonna continue looping until this number becomes 0. Now what I'm saying here, give me the size of the underscore. Now since I took 1 element and I had 3 elements, now I only have 2 elements inside this array, so will be continued twice. So continue twice and get the element in that case. Here we are getting the second element, which is 2. I'm saying is 2 bigger than 10. It is not, so we'll continue. We're not going to the statement, go back to the for each. Now we'll go to the second element. Is the second element, which is 1, is 1 bigger than 10? No, it is not. Go up, become 0, so we'll go out from the loop and we'll return the value in the last statement here, which is the best, and here I have best had 10. Let's see if it was 1 argument. I had 1 argument, so I shift the argument into the base, so there is no more elements inside the loop. So technically we'll jump into the base and we'll return the value, which is 10, if I had just 10 in my array or in the argument. Now if I had 0, in that case I'm saying shift, there is no element inside the array, there is no argument, so undefined will be in best. In this case we'll not go into the loop because here there is no element, the size is 0, there is no size of this array. Return the best, which is the undefined value. So it works perfectly fine. Another thing to mention also about that I can introduce it even in any block inside my program. It doesn't have to be in subroutines at all. For example, here I have a loop from 1 to 10, and I'm saying that a variable or a scalar named square, I just define it now, which is equals the underscore multiplied by underscore. So I'm squaring the numbers of the list. So here 1 multiplied by 1, the first time will be 1, so I'm printing 1. Continue 2 by 2, 4, I'm playing 4, then 3 by 3, 9, 16, 25, 36, etc. Now also on my file can be considered the values I am defining are local. So if you are calling one file to other files or other languages, and this is, we might see it at the end of the course, also you can define your variables locally for that file, will not be understood by other files, and this is really important. And now why would you use this one? Why would you add this letter to all the variables in your file? The thing that is very important, that you can catch typos in this way, and the way that you do, like under the pound bank user binary Perl, you put this statement use strict. This is will define for you if you did some kind of mistake. Let's say you used your variable Fred, $sign Fred, then you wrote $, capital F Fred, and what will happen, Perl will define this as a totally new variable, but will not give you any warning or anything that you might think you made a mistake, and you keep looking into your code and you will not discover what kind of error you did. So this is a very safe way. From now on, we're gonna use it, and you will have to consider that I'm using use strict at the beginning of all the programs that you're gonna see. So strict will tell you that this is variable cannot be executed because you didn't define this variable. So here, for example, I defined a local variable x equal to 3, and now if I say x $x, it's okay because it knows the value of x. Now if I say just $y, will not will say this is will throw an error saying this is not defined variable, of course if you added use strict at the beginning. Now if I am using it here, for example, I define it inside a block my $z, and I am using the scalar z, is okay. Now if I am using it outside the curly bracket, will be not defined and will give you an error. So always remember that any value you define, it is inside the block of the definition of this value. If you want to make it known for the whole file, you have to define it at the beginning of your program outside the curly braces. So this is very useful. So whenever you have at least 10 lines, you have to use a strict, safer for you. There is a way that if you want to break out from the subroutine and in the middle or any place you don't want to continue, it's like exit in some other programs like basic. The way you do it by using the keyword return. Here an example. Let's say that I have following array names, and I define it locally, that has the quoted word Fred, Barney, Betty, Dino, and Wilma. Now I am calling a subroutine in which element is with the ampersand, and I am returning the value into result, and also I define it as a local. I am sending arguments. The first argument is one keyword Dino, and the second one is an array of all the names that I have here. So 5 elements inside this array, and the element that I want to compare with it. What I want to do, I want to return the location of Dino. So here, for example, 0, 1, 2, 3, so my subroutine return the value of 3. So let us take a look. Which element is, and I am defining my as the first element is at what. It's going to put the first element here, and the second element I name it as an array. And what I'm saying, all the argument that you're receiving them when this subroutine is called, assign them to those values. So the first one will be going here, the second and up to the end will be in the array. So here when I'm calling the subroutine, Dino will be in what, and names will be in array. Okay, so all those 5 elements will be inside array. I'm saying for each from 0 to, if you remember, this is $sign hash array will give you the size of the array. In our case 4, because it starts from 0, 0, 1, 2, 3, 4. So from 0 to 4, repeat this loop. Okay, now since Dino is in the middle somehow, not the middle, but at least in is not the last element, so my subroutine, I wanted to break it here if I found the value. So this is a comparison. Remember, in strings you use the equal as word. So is Dino equal to the array underscore, which is the first value 0 here. So in this case, comparing is dyno equal to Fred is not, so we'll repeat, we'll not do anything. The second one, the third one, the fourth one, dyno it's equal. So in this case I'm saying return for me the location of the array, and here will return for me 3, and we'll break from the loop and go out. So this is a very easy way to break the subroutine from the middle and to stop the looping. Okay, this is the end of subroutine. We had a very quick look at the way to work with subroutines in Perl. Very easy and very convenient.